Hey everybody, we're here with a We Love Craft Beer show. We're broadcasting live in Las Vegas. I'm here, Ron, you know Sylvain, and today we have the guys over at College Street Brewing at a Lake Havasu, Arizona. Is that right?
That's correct.
This is Jason, JT, and I'm really looking forward to tasting some of your beers today. I know you came all the way from there to Las Vegas, and you got a whole bunch of things that we're going to try. So before we go, tell us about your brewery. Tell us about the overall.
We basically started up in the middle of Havasu. I mean, per capita, there's 4 breweries in Havasu. So until a couple of months ago, we owned the per capita breweries per population in Arizona.
Yeah.
But we started up as a 30 barrel. Our goal was production right out of the gate. And so we're moving 960 gallons of beer at every time we brew. We're brewing 5 days a week, nonstop, round the clock, and pushing beer fast, you know.
And it's only 2.5 hours.
It's only 2.5 hours away. We got a great brew pub that's attached to us too, and the food actually ended up being really good. So we worked out a couple of chefs. We do a lot of local ingredients. We pull our pig farmer that takes our spent grain, also raises Russian cross boar, and we use that Russian cross boar at every opportunity that we can come across. Make cure our own bacon, run our own sandwiches, and cook our own burgers.
So what's your favorite meal?
If I had to pick, I'd be eating a pastrami sandwich every day of my life. Now, naturally, my wife won't let me do that because it's incredibly fattening, and it's got a nice.
And you will pair with which one of your beer?
If I was going to pick a beer, my palate right now is floating hardcore towards the sours. So I drink sour beer nonstop. Now, if I was going to put something with a pastrami sandwich, though, I'd be drinking a heavier beer. I'd probably be drinking like our Mariner, our IPA. I'd be drinking that.
Great, great. And then we met you guys over at the beer festival.
Yeah,
Lake Las Vegas. And in fact, we have a video online with you pouring that stuff, and I think that's what we're going to sample first, I believe, right?
Yeah,
Big Blue Van.
All right, excellent. So let's get
that sounds good.
Let's go with the big blue van, right?
Sounds good. Let's do it.
Looking forward to it.
All right.
All right. Somehow these things just magically appeared. We got 4 glasses, 4 people. We got good beer. Let's open it and pour and show our fans at home what we're drinking right now.
The magic of editing.
Yep, it's incredible. And I got to tell you something. Lake Havasu, I went there about a couple of years ago. I had such a great time there, and I fell for the joke that everyone falls for. You know what that is?
No, which one?
Somebody told me that the London Bridge was brought to Lake Havasu brick by brick and reestablished there. I couldn't believe it. I'm like, you please stop. And it's true.
Yeah.
Is it?
Yeah, it's true.
It's not an urban legend?
They broke it down, they numbered each individual once, and they put it back on the same
That's
one.
got to be the greatest story ever.
The crazy part is they took it, they put it in, but they didn't actually dig the trench. So when they put it in, they put it on dry land. And then they trenched it out and let the lake fill it up.
Yeah, it's a great place to go. It really is. It's so much, except it's a little hotter than Vegas, believe it or not.
Yeah,
and about 5 to 10 degrees, yeah.
Which is good for thirst, right?
It's good for beer. So, okay, so again,
this.
what are we drinking here?
This is Big Blue Van.
Big Blue Van.
It's an American wheat blueberry vanilla.
Blueberry vanilla wheat, yeah.
Cheers, guys.
Throw it.
It's a good hot beer.
Well, I'll tell you right off the bat, it certainly, as soon as you smell this, the blueberry hits you right away, which is very impressive. That's pretty good. That's real good.
That's the joy of one of those blueberries. Like I said, it's one of those effervescent smells.
And another thing that I like about this beer is that I didn't have to wait for the taste.
Yeah.
Right? Sometimes these flavored beers, you have to, we've tried a lot of them.
Oh, yeah.
Where you drink it and then, I'm not really getting it. And then 2 minutes later, you start to feel a little bit. This is like right away.
Yep.
So that's really
And why blueberry? Of all the fruits you can pick, why did you pick blueberry?
You know, my wife's really big into antioxidants and health.
Okay.
Got to the point where it was either, I float towards cherries and tart cherries, but that's a specific palate, and she's screaming blueberries, and we just started moving.
Could you do that tart into a sour as well, or no? That will push it way off.
We can. I mean, we're working on that right now to move that red tart cherry into a sour. It's probably going to end up in a bottle conditioned beer, because the cherries. The problem we end up having, like with this blue van, is cherries develop really slowly.
Okay.
Blueberries, as soon as
You're
you squeeze it, it's immediate. And cherries take a little while to get in there. So.
And it doesn't taste like this is very alcoholic either. What's the alcohol level on this, more or less?
This one's good. It's real drinkable. I wouldn't call it sessionable because it's still over 5, but you're like 5.4%. So I mean, if you're sitting out in Havasu, if you're out all day on the lake drinking this, we put it in cans, and it's the way to travel. So
my definition is anything under 6 is sessionable.
That's good. Modern society, anything under 5 is what they pick, but that's because they're not.
Beer show fans, anything under 10.
Exactly.
All right. So at the We Love Craft Beer show, we have our rating system for our beers, and like to see you guys where you at with. And if you need the 0.5, It's required. Cannot be above 10, guys. So
fair enough.
10.5. But
I'm gonna take one of these.
I'm
gonna use it because I can.
So then, why don't you start us off? What did you think about the beer?
I give it an 8. I think it's definitely a good product. I like the taste, the blueberry in it. Good excuse for drinking beer. You say to your wife, you know what, I need an antioxidant. That's the perfect excuses. I'm more an IPA guy. I like, bolder taste. That's a nice taste. Funny enough, I think ladies will also enjoy that beer as well as the men, which sometimes IPAs or double IPAs like you guys have, they don't achieve that for the female as much. So I like it. I give it a 8.
Excellent, okay, all right, good. Well, again, as a flavored beer, I think this is really good. I'm the only one who's actually finished their beer, so that must mean I like it, which I do.
You were in a hurry then.
Yes, but I like it. I'm going to give this an 8 again as well. I think this is a really good drinking beer. Like I said before, I love the aftertaste. I like the aroma of the whole thing. Tastes really great. And for people who are into flavored beers, fruit-flavored beers, I think this is a must-try.
Definitely.
Absolutely.
I'm gonna have to give it a 10 because I'm sitting next to the mad scientist here, so I'm gonna be safe and give it a 10.
That's
good.
That makes sense.
And I'll be the one that's ironic. I'm going to give it an 8.5. Yes, I make it, but at the same time, it's a flagship beer. I drink it all day long, so my palate tends to move towards, like you were saying, I move towards hoppier beers, and I'm huge into a sour phase in my life. So, like any quality beer drinker, I'll start at one, and as the season progresses, I move through the next.
Before we stop this segment, let me just ask you guys, is this on tap in any bars here in Vegas, for example, or anywhere that we can get this?
It is, as a matter of fact, we sell it at all the Total Wines and Lees, right? And JT be the one to tell you exactly what bars it's on right now. But we started moving through Bonanza here in Las Vegas.
Yeah.
And this beer explodes here just the same way it's exploded in Arizona, so it's moving through bars on a regular basis.
We're popping up out here for sure. You can find us at High Scores. You guys you got a lot of rotation going on out here. It makes it a little tough to give out how you go here. But High Scores is definitely
both locations.
Yes.
Okay.
But Total Wine, if you want to go buy a 6-pack, it's available.
Lee's is awesome for us.
Lee's as well.
Very well for us.
Super. These are the two main places for us.
And we're running a big price point right now. So it's on sale.
$7.99 a 6-pack. Text to win. Get yourself a beach cruiser.
Beach cruiser.
Nice 6-pack.
That sounds good. That's something that you want to win.
Yeah,
and it's can, right? So you guys have moved towards can. Like we can see a lot of the brewer like you guys now moving towards can.
It's at Zero Light, Zero Air.
Canned Air is a better beer, is the way I look at it. It tastes just like draft beer when it comes off, and Zero Light, Zero Air, and you can pack it in, pack it out. It's a much more sustainable product.
Excellent.
And craft beer is all about sustainability.
Well, we got another good one coming up, right?
Let's do it, yeah.
All right, so
thank you guys.
All right, our next beer here from College Street. Brew House?
Yes.
Pub?
Yeah, Brew House and Pub is what we end up calling it.
Yeah, you have the website too. Right?
Yeah, Brew House and Pub. It's an incredibly long website.
Okay, well anyway, this is a beer I thought we were going to stay for last, but we just have to do this next. We have to, right? Yeah. So tell us about this beer.
So Brother Dewey's Date Night, it started off as kind of a pet project as a brown ale, and then there's a local date farmer in South Arizona, in Yuma. And he came up one day and he said, I got a bunch of dates. You guys think you can do anything with this? So we decided to start formulating a recipe. So this bad boy here starts as a brown ale. We brew it with 250 pounds of locally sourced dates out of Yuma, a whole bunch of blue clover honey out of Cottonwood. We take all that, we throw it in, and then we age it for a year. So we basically age ourselves in old ale is what we end up calling it at the end of the day, and it's brown ale.
And the aging is done in what kind of...
for the most part, we ferment it for about 45 days. So it stays in the fermenter for a long time in stainless steel, and then we keg some of it, and we barrel age some of it, and then we end up doing a blend back with it in the whole mess, and we blend it all together, and then we start bottling it in 22s and pop it in kegs.
So for the people that don't know, when you go on the 45 like that, the yeast is really a big deal, how to deal with the yeast, because as we know, it's eating the sugar out of the beer, and that's what creates the flavor, the alcohol content, and everything else.
Yep.
So how do you manage that process?
We have a pretty good proprietary yeast strain at College Street, so the fermentation itself is actually pretty well finished by the end of 20 days max.
Oh, yeah.
And then our yeast responds really well to pressure and temperature. So as we drop the tank, it settles out, we'll pull it off, and then we'll let it sit there and kind of condition to a sense where the flavors start to slowly develop. Even though yeast fermentation is stopped, it starts to condition and develop itself before we pop it into a keg.
Let's open it.
I love dates. I'm so excited to try this. This is going to be my first.
Well, then I'm going to pour yours first.
That's a nice brown pour.
It's got a nice brown color to it. Yeah.
That's a beautiful brown color.
Do we get the nose of the dates in it too?
That would be my hope and my assumption. Yeah, that was the goal right out of the bat.
Yes, sir.
You get a nice date sugar smell out of it.
And this is a 2014, correct?
This is a 2014 vintage, yeah. So we brew it. It sits for a year at the brewery before we bottle it, and then once it hits the market,
you guys nailed it. You nailed the aroma. You nailed it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's amazing.
And this one's at 8%, so you can actually get the dates in the back of your throat. Because dates actually have a little bit of bitterness to them, along with the sugar.
And I'm glad we kept it out of the cooler a little to get a little warmer feel to it. Yeah, it did open up a bit. I really like this.
Very
it might even do better. You let it breathe and you let it warm up a little bit longer.
A lot of work, a lot of love in this beer.
Yeah.
So this one won us a bronze medal at the Great American Beer Festival in the old age beer category. Yeah.
Beautiful. That's awesome. That's awesome.
Because I like medals as much as the next guy, but yeah.
So that's available only a certain time of the year. Only at your location, right?
Yeah.
You don't distribute that.
Well, we actually distribute it in Phoenix. It hasn't moved its way out to Las Vegas yet.
We'll hit key areas this time, yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah.
So we distribute it. It basically rolls out probably end of September or August. It actually always ends up falling on whenever the Great American Beer Festival is, because it just kind of timed itself as being the beer that we've released at the same time.
Are you going to that festival?
Yeah, every year we go.
Okay, nice.
We go check it out. Yeah, we go into the chaos and the mass hysteria that is the Great American Beer Festival.
That's what we wait all year for.
I don't know if you guys have been there yet, but if you haven't been,
I really want to make our way there. We really should have. We should go to that place. It's the all-star game for beer, for craft beer. So listen, I'm gonna start the rating here. I gotta tell you guys. I like dark beers. I like stouts. The darker, the better. As far as brown ales go, I would never go out and order a brown ale. Just on a whim. But I like this a lot.
Thank you.
I mean, a lot. This is a great brown ale. I'm gonna give it a 9. If there's an 8.5, 9 in that range, I'm gonna say this is a 9.
You guys are gonna have to make a 7.5.
Yeah,
7.5 card.
Folks, this is. I mean, if you're into brown ale, you guys just did great. I mean, I really like this. I really like this.
I follow with a 9 too. Love the sophistication of that beer. I wish we had more time to flavor it.
A little warm up.
Yeah, a little warm up. The perfume in it, I love it. Dates. Nobody uses dates, rarely. I don't know how many other beers out there with dates, but I love the idea. I love your honey flower, from your region.
Blue clover honey. Yeah.
Clover honey. There's some spice to it. It's a fantastic beer. Like you said, people by nature, I don't think we order normally brown ale normally.
It's not a incredibly popular
but this, it's deserving.
Surprising.
All right.
Yeah.
Cool. Thank you.
Yeah.
JT, what do you think?
Fantastic.
What do you think?
I was gonna give it a solid 10, but I don't want you guys to make fun of me, so I'm gonna go with a 9.
Here you go.
You can go with the 9.5.
Yeah.
It's perfect.
Yeah, there's a lot of work in this beer, and I see these guys just busting their ass, making sure this beer's done correctly every time, and the older it gets, it's neat to see how much it changes too.
Yeah.
So.
JT, this is something you just mentioned now. Go 10 seconds. When you say love and people busting their ass, some people think that brewing beer is just like you pour water, you pour a couple ingredients, you wait and enjoy life.
Yeah.
Right? Tell the people how much work there is in beer.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot more people think. I see these guys just, it's their passion, you know what I mean? And they're in there and they're humping the bags, they're doing this, up and down the ladders, and just documenting these fermenters. And
Most people don't realize it's making beer is like 90% of the job is janitorial. It's scrubbing, it's cleaning, it's pushing, it's lifting, it's nonstop. You got to be.
They even play certain music. If there's certain beers fermented at certain times, you got to play certain music for it, because he says the beer hears music. That's
true. Yeah. Dewey's is a big fan of jazz. Our wheat beer, it's for some reason, it's a big weirdo.
Music is vibration, right?
Yeah.
So it does work together. People don't realize that, but there's really science behind music.
And it's always
every beer we make loves bluegrass. Just
that's good.
All right. It's always hard to pull these guys away to play some foosball with me too, ping pong. So.
And I'm assuming you got the 10 up there. You have to.
You have to.
So I'm going to give it a 10.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Like I said, I'm moving through a sour, and I like dark beers. I like aged beers. It's just kind of the phase I'm in, and as far as my palate goes. And I like the fact that this beer, if it, like you drink it today, it'll taste like it tastes like right now for drinking. If you sat on it for another year, it'd have a little bit more butteriness to it, and it would change and adapt a little bit here and there. As oxygen and light gets to it, it's only going to improve. So I like any beer, honestly, that doesn't have an expiration date. That I know is only going to get better the older it gets.
Definitely.
You know.
Well, we got some
And
more.
that's another thing people don't know, you know. Not all beers have an expiration date. Some of them get better like us.
Always.
As we get older, we get better.
I
Silver Fox,
That's
you
what I
know?
keep saying.
Silver Fox,
You
yeah.
bet.
Well, we're not stopping at 2. We've got some more to sample coming up. I believe it's a stout coming up.
Yeah, we're going to do stout next. Yeah.
Coming up next with that. All right, up next from College Street Brewing, got our stout.
Sweet Devil.
Sweet Devil Stout, right?
Yeah. So this one's a nice roasty stout. Comes in at 6.66%. First time we brewed it, that was a very convenient
The
happening.
Devil
That
Stout.
it ran out,
right?
yes.
Right.
It ran out as the number of the devil, so it ended up working out for us. But we were shooting for something that was, it actually ends up more in the dry stout category. So we were
Okay.
shooting for something that wasn't too sweet, but had a nice roast and a nice dark chocolate
Yeah,
taste
dark
to it.
chocolate comes
So
out a lot.
yeah, I mean the more it warms up, the more chocolate comes out
Yeah.
on the mouthfeel of it. So
Let's pour that open.
yeah. And once again, we'll start over here with you.
Let's make sure they can see it on the. That's
Pour,
pretty good.
pour mine in with that one. Pour mine next. JT, you want to pour that one in there?
Yeah, again, that looks like a pretty nice stout. Nice hit
So
on that.
it ends up being nice and dark, and surprisingly enough, this beer, what we were shooting for, since we are in the brewery is in Arizona, it ends up being one of those things where stout is not a big beer in 120-degree weather.
No.
Yeah.
No.
But we were shooting for something that was good, but it was also light enough that you could still drink it in summertime if you were a diehard stout fan.
Right.
And that's
Okay.
kind of what we were aiming for with this. So it's not as heavy a, it's not as heavy a body beer as you would get with a lot of stouts. You know, if you're moving towards Guinness or milk stouts or like left-hand stout stuff, things like that.
Right.
It's not that. It's not as heavy. It's a little bit more light,
Drinkable stout.
a little bit
Okay,
more crisp
yeah,
with it. Yeah.
Sounds good.
Cheers.
Again, I get a really nice aroma right at the top. I don't know how you guys. This is really. You guys are doing a good job with that.
Thank you.
You're right. Dry stout. I like the fact you said dry stout. That's really.
It's huge on the nose. And,
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's an easy drink.
The Sweet Devil part ended up becoming more of a convenience of naming.
Right.
So when you name a beer, right? What's the process? How it goes?
You know, you fall asleep one day with the thought that you got to figure out what to name this beer, and you wake up in the morning and an idea hits you in the face, and you bring it to 6 or 7 other people that work in the brewery. And
Call
you
each
hope-
other in the middle of the night.
Yeah. You hope they don't look at you and go, no, that's stupid. And if they do, then
Yeah.
you
Okay,
change
never
it, you
mind.
know, because I can't even imagine or even describe the amount of names I've come up with that were stupid and compared to the ones that were good.
Oh, good laughs though.
Yeah.
Because that's another part, another dimension of craft beer nowadays. Label, names,
Oh yeah.
packaging.
Yeah.
It's such a big competitive market. There's over 4,000 brew pub and brewer now
Yeah.
consider craft beer. So you guys have to fight that market share.
Well-
and naming is part of it.
Yeah, it is a big part of it, the can design, you know, and how you're going to put it. But the joy I found with craft beer is that it's like as far as I'm concerned, it's one of the world's only leftover open source businesses in the country. So even though, you know, we're coming up with this name and we're dealing with other things, I'll sit there and I'll Google a name. And if I find another brewery that already has it, I'll call them on the phone and I'll ask them,
Yeah.
you know, are you using it? Or
Yeah.
is it not going? Is it going? And most of the time, a lot of them are going to go, well, I stopped making that beer in 2015.
Craft beer, yeah.
Do what you want.
Craft.
And then we can go ahead and use it, because as with anything creative, it's, you know, it's hard to come up with something that's 100% original and brand new.
Yeah,
You know,
for sure.
but for the most part, we're
But you're right. As an industry, it's very
yeah,
collaborative.
we're
It
very
really is.
cooperative.
Yeah.
We're very collaborative. You
Yeah.
know, and we're all
And that's one of the beautiful thing of craft beer. Even when we go to these beer tasting events, the people collaboration is fantastic. You
Yeah.
know, there's not like that nasty competition between each other. I don't want to steal your stuff. No, people.
I leave that to the
together.
sales side.
Yeah.
The salesmen have that
Right,
competition,
right.
right?
Well,
But the brewery side, we don't
You
deal
can
with.
go to a lot of craft beer brewers right here in Las Vegas, and there'll be guest taps of other brewers. I mean, you know, everybody's out there
Yeah.
marketing and promoting everybody else's beer. It's great.
And honestly,
Yeah.
that's the way I look at it. If a beer bar opened up right next to us in the brewery, the first thing I would do is walk over there and ask them, like, put my beer on too. You know,
Oh,
I
for
wouldn't want them to close up and bring it.
Well,
And you're proud of your
Yeah, you're proud,
products,
you're proud
right?
of it. I mean, you should be. This is really good stuff. This is very easy drinking.
Yeah.
As you said before, I want to bring up something that's been very popular now. I've been drinking these nitro stouts recently, and they make a stout very easy drinking because they're infusing all that
Nitrogen.
nitrogen. But this isn't a nitro, is it?
We actually, it's not, but we actually nitrogenate this particular
The
beer.
Creamy Demon.
Yeah, it's called Creamy Demon. That's what we do.
about.
We do
Okay.
it in the brewery. Nitrogen has a real tendency to take the harshness and the hoppiness off of a beer.
Yes.
And if you have a lot of depth and dynamic flavors inside a beer, nitrogen's going to help bring that out. But what we do is we leave it a little bit carbonated, and we leave a little bit of carbonation in it, and then we punch it full of nitrogen. And nitrogen makes it really creamy, gives a really soft white head to it, and it makes it really smooth. But with a little bit of carbonation bubble to it, it still gives it that kind of sting on the tongue. So what you end up flavoring with this, like the Creamy Demon, has got a real smooth vanilla and dark chocolate flavor to it.
Jason, you think these nitros are more a fad, or it's going to stay and it's going to grow, because it's growing right now at an alarming pace in my taste?
You know, to be honest with you, the word fad makes it difficult to categorize anything, because as people progress and try new beer styles, you know, a lot of people thought the IPAs, you know, and West Coast IPAs were a fad. Now they're becoming the industry standard in the continental United States. And
So do you see nitros becoming an industry standard?
well, I don't know about that. With a certain category of people that like nitros, I see
Okay.
people moving towards the nitro
Yeah,
beer.
same-
I mean,
same
'cause
here. I see that a
as
lot,
your
yeah.
palate adapts and you change, like for me, it's seasonal. You know, I wake up one morning in the summertime, I want one kind of beer. In the wintertime, I like a totally different kind of beer. That doesn't mean I don't like the other beer previously. It just means that as I continue to rotate through craft beer, like there's probably very few things I've found that I dislike or I think are disgusting. You know, or I have a problem with the flavor. For the most part, my palate's just not to that point, or it doesn't like that style of beer at the time. You know?
For me, the nitro, though, takes away some of the edge I like sometimes.
I agree with you.
It does.
So
yeah.
it makes it more mainstream, which is fine. But if your palate can taste it and you remove it, I think I'm losing something, personally.
Yeah.
But maybe I'm improving.
Everybody's different though. I
No,
agree with you.
it's true. It can, because I mean, it really takes the edge off of this beer too. So if you really like Sweet Devil Stout, the nitro you'll feel is a totally different beer. And we do that as a sample at the brewery a lot of times when people aren't sure whether or not they've had a nitro beer. I'll put the two of them next to each other, and then they'll sample the regular Sweet Devil, they'll like it, they'll sample the nitro, and they go, well, it's really bland and there's not a whole lot, you know, there's vanilla but there's no edge to it. And then I tell them it's the exact same beer. You know, that's one of the joys of craft beers. You get the opportunity to educate and tell people that it's brewed exactly the same way. It's fermented the exact same way. It's packaged the same way. We just put a different gas on it. And as soon as you put a different gas on it, you're going to realize the different nuances that make a beer completely different.
All right, Jason, what's your score?
Oh, mine? Well, it's 120 degrees in Havasu right now.
Right,
So, I mean, I like stouts. I'm going to give this one an 8. I'm going to actually even pull up an 8.5, even though I've already done this one with the Blue Band before. But I'm going to do an 8.5 on this one because it's hot as
that's
all
fine.
holiness
Yes,
in Lake
exactly.
Havasu. So even though this is an easy drinker, I can't drink stout in the middle of summertime. It's just too hot outside. But I like the 8.5 because it's a really smooth stout. It doesn't have a lot of edge. It lingers just long enough to make you want to take another drink, which is the thing I like about a lot of beers. So
JT?
I'm going to give it a 9. And
Okay.
the reason I'm going to give it a 9 because not only am I impressed by how drinkable this beer is, the nose on it's huge. Kind of shocks me how drinkable it is because I'm expecting it to be so much heavier. And the fat kid in me loves it with vanilla ice cream. So I'm going to give it a 9.
the nitro's huge too.
Yeah.
Put a vanilla scoop of ice cream.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to give this beer an 8.5 on this. And I'll tell you why. I think it's a really good drinking beer, like you said before. It's a good drinking stout. Personally, I like stouts that are just chocolate and coffee and, I mean, real strong kind of thing. That's the reasoning behind that. But this is a really good drinking stout that I think a lot of stout drinkers would like to try.
It's impressive, yeah.
So it's funny because we all have different palates, obviously.
Yeah.
And my reason is the dryness of your style that I like. That's why it's going to push it from 8 to 8.5. The dryness on it for a stout for the summer, it's pretty nice because it made me feel that it's not as heavy as if I didn't have that
As you
dryness.
thought it should be, yeah.
So therefore it's an 8.5 and I'm excited. It's good beer. Good
Nice.
job, guys.
Thank you.
Good.
Thank
Well,
you.
we're not done. We're not done. We have another one that we're going to try.
All right.
So coming up,
One more.
one more from College Street, one more beer to try from College Street Brewing, and I think we started with a blueberry. We're going to end with a kind of a variation on that, right?
Yeah.
So, Jason, tell us what you got here. For this.
So we just started dipping our toe into the sour program. So like I said, I'm a huge sour beer fanatic, you know, and I've really started moving that direction and something a little different. So we started kettle souring a Belgian wit ale. And like, I'm huge on blueberries, it's obvious with the big blue van. So we've moved in and we made a blueberry sour ale out of it. And that's basically what's come out of this is a V Beauregard. So V Beauregard's a blueberry sour ale that we just moved into cans, and it's sold in keg product also in a couple of chat places.
All right.
So
Sounds interesting.
The acidity on this beer, as far as the sour market goes, a lot of people consider it a mild sour, but we've really moved into having, you know, the acidity is pretty low. We get around 3.1 pH on this beer.
Oh, nice.
And for a beer fanatic, they may or may not know, you know, what that means, but it's definitely more tart. So if you let it coat your tongue, it's going to pucker your face.
Yeah, well, that looks like
you.
about a sour.
Yeah.
That's a sour for sure. This looks
And it's a
good.
nice smooth, I mean, if we had to stylize it, we'd probably move it towards a Berliner style, if we were going to roll
Yes.
it. But it's got the nose, it's got a blueberry nose to it, and
Right. Yeah.
it's got a sour punch to it, right?
Yeah.
Yes, this is very yes. Yes,
That's
it
what we're
does.
going for. So we kettle sour, which is, as far as the market's going between Belgium and the United States, it's a very simple way to sour, but it's a very attainable way to sour. So our goal with this beer was to make a beer that's going to bring people into the sour beer market, where they're going to drink it and they're going to realize, like, you know, the sour isn't an off-putting word. It's a word that goes, I'm going to try that out and then try it, because there is a drastic market within craft beer throughout the country of sour beers.
Sours
People
are
that
getting very popular.
That are working hard to
Yes,
age beers, and
yes.
they're putting a lot of time and a lot of effort into beers. And this is one of those beers we're trying to get people to move that direction.
Yeah, it is an
Right.
acquired taste though. This
Yeah.
is sour for a beer. 'Cause a lot
Can
of
sour be the next IPA?
You can sour an IPA.
No, can it be the next IPA in terms of popularity, or you think it's always going to be a small market segment of the beer?
You know, I'm going to say, I think yes.
Yeah.
Because people that love hops are as addicted to the bitterness and the dankness of a hop as people that love sours are addicted
Yeah.
to the tartness and the complexity of a sour beer.
Yeah.
So,
Well, going back to what you just said, my experience with IPAs were when I first tasted it, I couldn't stand them. I'm like, who drink this? This is really, really bad.
well, who in their younger drank a Bud Light and thought, "Oh, this
Right,
is wonderful.
right.
I love it. Have another."
And you know, as
You gotta
crazy as you are, you
keep
drink
trying.
more and more IPAs. Now that's my go-to. I drink IPAs all the time. So maybe sours are the same way, where people might start to drink it and say, "Oh, this is sour," right?
Yeah.
But then, you know, after they keep trying it and going more and more, this could be like their beer of choice.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, the joy of sours is they're super tart when you first initially drink them. In your first drink, it's
Yeah.
going to throw you off a little bit, right? But you go back for a second, and then your palate's going to naturally burn out on that
Yeah.
tart, and then you're going to start feeling and tasting all the nuances of that flavor.
To me, this tastes very what's the word? Complex. And I'm wondering, is this an introductory sour to somebody who's never tried it before?
I think it is. It's
think
a little
so?
bit more on the tart side than a lot of long barrel-aged beers are, because there's really two different ways you can sour a beer. You can do it the short way, which is kettle souring like we do it. You're just introducing a lactobacteria, which is basically a yogurt bacteria that they use to sour yogurt. And you can introduce it fast, which can it's going to create a lot of tartness quick, and you can create a beer from the day it's done to ready to be in the can within 14 to 15 days. And then there's the long way, where you're getting places like the brewery out in Anaheim, California, and different places that are doing it, where they're putting it in a barrel and they're adding bacteria to it in a barrel, and then they let it sit for a year. You know, a year, 2
Yeah.
years. Some of it, in Belgium, they're letting stuff sit for 5 years to sour slowly. And those beers aren't as tart, but you say that one's complex. Those beers are much more
Oh, really?
complex
Yeah.
because they get a lot of oak flavor out of them. They're getting a lot of fruit that they're putting on them. So you go from having a beer that you're drinking a lot of to really taking a drink, and I mean that's really kind of the joy of having it served in a small glass like this, where people are starting to take the point where beer no longer really has to be in a pint that you just pound it. It's no longer just pound it and drink it
Right.
and move on and forget it.
Yeah.
It's really a very
We like to say beer is a new wine. That's
exactly.
what I
You can
always say.
enjoy it the same way you're enjoying a 12-year-old double barrel scotch. You know,
Right.
take your time.
The
with it.
Cicerone are the new sommelier.
That's right, that's right.
Well, they're the majority. So sommelier is a very specific group. You know, you got a Cicero now that chase beer. I mean, 90% of the population is a beer lover.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Wine drinkers are great, but they're a smaller population. So
Right. Right.
So, how would you rank this beer? And by the way, what's the alcohol content, the ABV?
the ABV on this one's 4.3. So, and the IBUs are pretty low. Most sours are going to be pretty low IBUs.
Right.
But the joy of kettle souring is that we could really add all the IBUs you want to this kind of beer and make it bitter, since it's kettle soured. Lactobacillus doesn't really deal very well with hop oils. It inhibits it. But if you kettle sour, you can do whatever you want with it. So we're working on a couple of different hop versions. I'm going to give this one a 9, only because today I've been drinking some very specific sours, such as Oat Tart from the brewery in Anaheim. I had one of those earlier, and they're a little bit more complex. So
Put it on my tab.
yeah, put it on his
He's got
tab.
a better life than you,
Exactly.
right?
It's not terrible. I come out every once in a while with a salesman, and I drink a whole lot of beer and do interviews.
JD, with your cold, which probably affect your taste bud a little bit, you're gonna go to 10.5?
Yeah, you know, I'm going to break you guys' rules. I'm going to have to give this a 10.5, and let me explain why. I not only think this is a very drinkable stout, it's bringing a lot of people interested in stouts.
Sour.
Sour.
Sours, I'm sorry.
Wow.
I can't rate it. I don't remember what kind of beer we're
My
drinking.
problem is mixing with NyQuil very well.
Yes.
But I watched Jason grow this thing basically under his desk with a 5-liter Arrowhead water bottle.
We did start this as an experiment with a.
With heating pads on it, like you'd use on your back. When you
Heating
had your
pads
back.
on a carboy.
I'd come in and go, what are you doing? What's this under your desk? And he explains to me, you're crazy. I'd leave like, what the hell am I going to sell this?
That's true.
And
It was a pet project I forced him to sell.
Yeah, and
Yes.
it's taken off, and now he's mad at me because he's having a hard time.
I'm trying to slow him down.
Yeah, and he can't slow it down. So I got to give it a 10 and a half. I'm sorry. I know
Good.
I'm not supposed to break your rules, but
That's okay. The rules are made to be broken.
yeah.
Rob?
I was going to give it a 7.5, but then after hearing that story, I'm going to upgrade it to at least an 8.
There you go.
And only because
That's the joy of craft
not,
beer.
Yeah, I'm not really a big sour fan, but this is a good beer. It's a good drinking beer, like you said. I think sour people who are going to start on sours would enjoy this. But again, for me, sours aren't really my strong suit, I guess you could say.
Yeah, I look at sours like I look at oysters. You love them or you hate them. There's really no in between.
Yep.
All right, I'm gonna go with a 9. Not a big sour guy either, but what I like about this sour, I think it's the perfect introduction to sour. So if you're not a sour guy, this is Sour Patch Kid,
Mm-hmm.
you know,
Definitely.
candy. So it is sour and you want to get back to it. Some sour, they're more complex, like the one you
Yeah.
explained. Your palate has to be used to that.
Yeah, they have a bit of vinegar to them. And they're-
Correct.
some
This
people
has
aren't
no
sure.
vinegar to it.
Yeah.
And this is really like a candy. You want to go back to it, you want to finish it. A sour that has the real sour to it, the vinegary taste to it, it's heavier. So that's why it's a 9 for me. It's a success. It's a great product.
Thank you.
And specifically to introduce people to sour.
Definitely.
A
Very
lot
good.
of people don't know
Exactly what
sour.
we're shooting for.
What is sour beer?
Mhm.
This is the perfect product.
Thank you.
That's why we threw it in a can and we priced it at the right price to get
Yeah.
people to convince them to go.
Is that also
Drink this.
available at Lee's Liquor
Oh, yeah,
and,
definitely.
Total Wine?
Total
and all?
Wines, yep. You're going to see it popping up all over out here. So.
Perfect.
Well,
Guys, it's been fantastic,
great.
right?
Anything that we could do to
Great.
get
Yeah,
College
thanks for
Street
having
here
us.
in Vegas, that would be great. You know, so JT,
Any excuse to come
pleasure.
back to
And
Las
Jason,
Vegas.
thank you so much.
And you know the
Appreciate it.
beauty of it is we taste only 4 of the 14 products.
All right, now you guys used to come out, right?
We have to
Yeah,
come up and
that's
we have to
right.
come back.
All right.
That's the
I
thing.
got to package more and bring it back out here.
Exactly.
So before we go, tell everyone how do we get in touch with you? Website, phone number, anything you want to
Yeah,
get
you
out?
can check us out on the website. We got a list of all our beers. You can go through and you can meet. You know, there's little blurbs about all of us. We got a YouTube page at College Street Brewhouse YouTube, and then College Street Brewhouse and Pub.com does our full website. You can follow us on Instagram, College Street Brewhouse, and at College Street Brewhouse.
And fun,
Yeah, and so I mean, we're all over social media. Anything we can do to get people interested in craft beer or anything.
So Jason says pastrami at the pub.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What are you saying for your best meal there?
I'm probably going with that turkey pesto, macaroni and cheese every time when we sit down, right? The macaroni and cheese is unbelievable.
If you're gonna eat macaroni and cheese, though, you gotta add bacon because we cure our own bacon in house.
Oh my
You gotta
God,
add bacon.
that's
You
great.
gotta add green chili because our chef Gary makes his own green chili sauce.
Yeah.
You gotta throw
Wow.
that stuff in the
Beautiful.
mac and cheese, and that's the way to go. Yeah.
Well, guess what?
Yeah, we gotta make a road trip, I guess. There's no question.
No more.
But so, let me
question.
tell you another thing. We went to this craft beer festival over at Lake Las Vegas. That's where we found these guys. We never would have known about them before, for the most part.
That's
Got
what
them
we
on
do.
the show. That's why we do the We Love Craft Beer show.
And that's why people have to go to these beer tasting events as
Absolutely.
well. To discover new product, new people, make new friends. And that's the beauty of craft beer for me, is to make friends as well.
Definitely.
Right? You taste great food, you make friends with the same passion, and that's fantastic.
Yeah, so thanks for watching, everybody. Go to beer-show.com. That's our website. At the top right, you'll see all the links to social media. Follow us, tweet, do whatever you can. And we look forward to seeing you guys on the next show. Thanks.
Cheers.
Cheers, guys.
Cheers.
starting to learn that if you're going to make a craft beer, you have
Yeah.
to make at least one quality product.
Yeah.
Yes.
And if you can make one, you realize that you can make more than one, and every other beer should be just as high quality. So as long as you stick to it, you know, it's the people that are in it to make money, they don't last very long.